The Life of Yuta Okkotsu from Jujutsu Kaisen. Sometimes you just gotta keep your promises. Horrifying curses be damned. And that's just what Yuta Okkotsu does. From the start, he's stayed true to his word, keeping in touch with his childhood sweetheart, taking care of his friends, and doing all he can to be just like his teacher. Sounds great, right? Well, it gets a little more complicated than that. Welcome to ChannelFrederator. Only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check that you're subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Spoiler warning for all you anime-only folks out there, this will go beyond what is currently covered in the latest season of Jujutsu Kaisen, so watch out for that. Yuta Okkotsu was born on March 7th, 2001. During his childhood, he met Rika Orimoto, and the two quickly became friends. In 2011, Rika gave Yuta a promise ring, and they vowed to marry each other someday. Tragically, Rika was later killed in a traffic accident. In his grief, Yuta instinctively called out her name, unknowingly cursing her soul and binding it to him as a powerful and vengeful cursed spirit. For the next 5 years, Rika remained attached to Yuta, making him a constant target of bullying. Whenever others tormented him, Rika would lash out and injure them. Fearing that people could be seriously hurt or even killed, Yuta chose to isolate himself, believing it was the only way to keep others alive. In November 2016, Yuta was involved in a serious incident after 4 students who had been bullying him were badly injured when they were forcefully crammed into a locker. This attack was caused by Rika, who acted to protect him. As a result, Tokyo Jujutsu High became aware that Yuta was bound to a special grade cursed spirit and initially decided that he should be executed. Believing himself to be a danger to others, Yuta agreed with this decision. During his isolation, Yuta attempted to take his own life, but Rika prevented him from doing so. Satoru Gojo intervened, arranging for Yuta to enroll at Tokyo Jujutsu High and placing his execution on indefinite hold, ensuring it would never be carried out. When Yuta insisted on remaining isolated, Gojo convinced him to attend the school instead, explaining that it would allow him to control, understand, and eventually unravel the curse. Upon meeting Panda, Maki Zenin, and Toge Inumaki, all 3 immediately sensed Yuta's curse. Mistaking him for a threat, they prepared to attack, leaving Yuta confused. Gojo stepped in to explain the purpose of the school and warn the students, just as Rika appeared to defend Yuta. After clarifying Yuta's circumstances, Gojo formally introduced him to the class and announced that they would be pairing up for the day's lesson. Yuta was partnered with Maki, though he struggled to keep up with her during their training. Gojo takes Yuta and Maki to an elementary school where 2 children have been abducted by cursed spirits. Before leaving them to handle the mission, Gojo explains to Yuta how cursed spirits are formed and sets up a protective barrier around the area. When 3 spirits appear, Yuta watches in awe as Maki swiftly exorcises all of them on her own. As they move deeper into the school, Yuta grows uneasy about the number of spirits lingering inside, while Maki notices something strange. The curses aren't attacking them. Suspecting it may be because of Yuta, she asks about his sorcerer grade. Yuta admits he doesn't know, prompting her to check his student ID. Maki is momentarily stunned to learn that Yuta is classified as a special grade sorcerer, only to be interrupted when Yuta warns her of a spirit behind her. The two are suddenly swallowed by a powerful curse, where they discover the missing children. Maki collapses from exhaustion, leaving Yuta unsure of what to do. When Maki asks why he chose to attend Jujutsu High, Yuta explains that he wants the confidence to truly live. Encouraged by Maki's words and her belief that the school can help him reach that goal, Yuta puts on the promise ring Rika once gave him, previously worn as a necklace, and summons her for the first time. Rika attacks the spirit, allowing them to break free. Yuta carries Maki and the children toward the exit, nearly collapsing along the way. Hearing Rika encourage him onward, Yuta finds the strength to keep going and safely reach the exit. After the incident, Yuta recovers at the hospital alongside Gojo, while Maki and the children receive treatment. Yuta reflects on summoning Rika for the first time, and recalls the promise they made long ago. He realizes that he was the one who cursed Rika and vows to find a way to free her. In response, Gojo presents Yuta with a katana and explains that the curse binding Rika can be broken gradually by imbuing the weapon with cursed energy, bit by bit. At one point, Yuta took part in the Goodwill event held at Kyoto Jujutsu High, representing Tokyo alongside one of his upperclassmen and without the other first-year students. During the event, Yuta overwhelmed the Kyoto team on his own, defeating every opponent he faced, including Aitodo. 3 months later, Yuta trains with Maki while Panda, Toge, and Gojo observe. Gojo assigns Toge a new mission and designates Yuta to accompany him. Panda explains that Toge is the only first year ranked as a grade 2 sorcerer and is trusted with solo missions. Gojo then clarifies Toge's curse technique and instructs Yuta to observe closely, emphasizing that he must not rely on Rika during the mission. Yuta and Toge are driven to the Happiness Shopping District by Kiyotaka Ichichi. Upon arrival, Ichichi begins briefing them on the assignment, only for Yuta and Ichichi to realize that Toge has wandered off to buy throat medicine. Once reunited, Yuta follows Toge into the shopping district, where he witnesses Toge effortlessly exorcise multiple cursed spirits using cursed speech, commanding them to explode. As they prepare to leave, Yuta and Toge notice that no barrier has been set up. Moments later, a powerful unidentified curse swiftly appears and attacks. Toge pushes Yuta out of harm's way and uses his technique to twist the spirit's arm, but the strain causes him to start coughing violently. With Toge unable to continue, Yuta steps in to protect him, rescuing him from the curse and getting him to safety. In the chaos, however, they lose the throat medicine Toge needed. After taking a short rest, Toge decides to confront the cursed spirit again. Despite Toge's insistence that he stay behind, Yuta chooses to go with him. As Yuta approaches, the spirit senses Rika's presence and flies into a rage. Yuta manages to dodge several attacks and even lands a hit of his own, but is ultimately struck in the forehead. Realizing he can't defeat the curse on his own, Yuta quickly tosses the throat medicine, left on the ground earlier, to Toge. After taking the medicine, Toge uses his cursed speech, commanding the spirit to get crushed, successfully exorcising it. Once the danger has passed, the two share a celebratory high five. During the chaos of the fight, however, Yuta unknowingly drops his student identification card, which is later picked up by Suguru Geto. Following the mission, Yuta and Toge return to Jujutsu High. There, Yuta speaks with Panda, who explains that Toge is genuinely kind and had been worried about Yuta due to their similar circumstances. Later, Yuta trains with Maki and asks for her advice on how to channel cursed energy into his sword. Maki admits that she can't help in that area, as she possesses no cursed energy herself. Several days later, Yuta is spending time with Toge, Panda, and Maki when Suguru Geto and his allies suddenly appear. Yuta's friends immediately taunt the group, warning them that Yuta will not let them leave if they cause trouble. Geto responds by casually approaching Yuta, taking his hands in a friendly manner, introducing himself, and calmly explaining his belief that all non-sorcerers should be eliminated. Yuta becomes visibly angry when Geto begins insulting his friends, especially Maki, whom Geto cruelly calls a disgrace to the Zenin clan, deeply wounding her. Yuta forcefully throws Geto's arm away and declares that he will never assist someone who disrespects the people he cares about. As the school faculty arrive and attempt to drive Geto off campus, Geto announces the date and location of the night parade of 100 demons before departing with his comrades. He leaves behind several cursed spirits for the school to handle as a parting provocation. On December 24, 2017, Yuta is in a classroom when Maki joins him. The two talk quietly, during which Maki opens up about her struggles with the Zenin family and her determination to return someday and become its head. Yuta admits that he wants to become someone strong like her and promises to fully support her goals. Embarrassed by his sincerity, Maki scolds him, insisting that it is her responsibility, not his, and abruptly leaves the room. When Geto destroys a barrier, Yuta immediately senses it being activated. Not long after, Yuta encounters Geto alongside his defeated friends. Enraged by what he sees, Yuta summons Rika to his side. As Geto unleashes multiple cursed spirits, Yuta successfully defends against them, rescuing his friends and using Rika's power to heal their injuries. When Rika picks up the unconscious Maki, clearly irritated and believing Maki is drawing Yuta's attention away, Yuta sharply scolds her and orders her to put Maki down, which Rika obediently does. Rika then asks Yuta who Geto is. Yuta answers that he is their enemy. When Rika asks if Yuta hates him and receives confirmation, she declares that she hates Geto as well. As Geto summons more curses, Yuta channels Rika's power and effortlessly exercises them using a megaphone created by Rika's cursed technique, marked with Inumaki's cursed speech seal. Through it, Yuta commands the spirits to die. Yuta closes the distance and engages Geto directly with his katana, while Geto counters using the cursed tool Playful Cloud. During the clash, Geto mocks non-sorcerers and speaks of sorcerers as superior beings, prompting Yuta to angrily call him childish. Geto responds by summoning an octopus-like curse, which Yuta quickly exercises. However, Geto gains the upper hand by striking Yuta in the face with Playful Cloud, forcing Rika to pull Yuta away to safety. Refusing to give up, Yuta re-enters the fight, but Geto shatters his katana. Undeterred, Yuta punches Geto, forcing him to retreat. After a brief exchange of words, Geto unleashes his full arsenal of curses using the extreme quantity cursed spirit manipulation technique, Tornado. In response, Yuta resolves to fully release Rika's power through a binding vow, at the cost of his own life. Before attacking, Yuta asks Rika to lend him her strength so he can defeat Geto, promising that they will stay together forever in the afterlife. He then kisses her, triggering a transformation as Rika manifests a single eye, cries out Yuta's name, and declares her love for him. Witnessing this, Geto becomes furious and insults Yuta as a womanizer. Yuta calmly responds that what binds him and Rika is pure love. Together, Yuta and Rika unleash an overwhelming blast that annihilates all of Geto's cursed spirits and forces him to retreat. Yuta later awakens to find his friends gathered around him, fully healed. They thank him for saving them, and Yuta explains everything that happened, including the promise he made to Rika to stay with her in the afterlife forever. The reactions turn to shock when Yuta realizes that Rika's curse has already been undone. Gojo arrives soon after and congratulates Yuta on successfully releasing Rika from her curse. When the others ask who Gojo is, having never seen his face without bandages, he casually introduces himself. Gojo then reveals that Yuta is a distant descendant of the legendary sorcerer Michizane Sugawara, making him distantly related to Gojo as well. This lineage explains the extraordinary strength of the curse Yuta unintentionally placed on Rika at the moment of her death. Unfamiliar with the name, Yuta asks his friends who Michizane Sugawara was, and they explain it to him in an awkward but informative way. As Rika begins to fade away, Yuta bids her a tearful goodbye. Before disappearing completely, Rika thanks Yuta for allowing her to stay by his side all those years. Later, Yuta walks with Gojo, who reassures him that Geto's attack was not his fault and returns Yuta's student ID. When Yuta asks if Gojo was the one who picked it up, Gojo replies that he received it from his best friend. Yuta then reunites with Maki, Panda, and Toge, who call out for him to join them. Smiling, Yuta walks over, still wearing the engagement ring that Rika gave him. About a year later, before Yuji Itadori enrolled at Jujutsu High, Yuta traveled overseas to Africa to train with Miguel and his sorcerer community. During his time there, he also searched for the Black Rope with Miguel's help, though they were unable to find it. In September, Yuta meets with Gojo once more, who asks him to look after Yuji should anything happen to him. Later, when Nobara Kugisaki first meets the second-year students, Megami Fushiguro mentions that Yuta is currently studying overseas. Meanwhile, while watching over Yuji Itadori's body, Gojo tells Ichiji that Yuta is one of the very few students he believes has the potential to one day surpass him, alongside Yuji Itadori himself and the third-year student Kinji Hakari. Even later, Gojo remarks that Yuta is still on their side, but the curse user controlling Suguru Geto's body points out that Yuta's immense powers, both his ability to copy cursed techniques and his boundless cursed energy, originated from the time he had Rika's soul bound to him. The imposter tells Gojo that no matter what, Yuta will never be able to become the next Satoru Gojo, just as Gojo is about to be sealed inside the prison realm. After the Shibuya incident, Yuta returns to Japan. Just as a young girl is about to be attacked by a cursed spirit, Yuta plunges his weapon into the ground, stopping it in its tracks. He gently asks the girl if he scared her and checks whether she's with anyone else. Noticing she's been walking a long distance, Yuta praises her efforts. Suddenly, the cursed spirit disappears from behind. Yuta calls on Rika to create a spatter of blood and gently warns the girl not to overexert herself as he leads her to safety. Later, at Jujutsu headquarters, Yuta tells everyone they don't need to thank him and urges them to move on to the main event. He asks if he should enter into a binding vow with them and declares that he doesn't care that Yuji Itadori is Gojo's student. He holds Yuji responsible for cutting off Toge's arm during the Shibuya incident. Yuta states plainly that he intends to kill Yuji himself. Yuta arrives at the battlefield where Yuji and Chozo are confronting Naoya Zenin. Observing the scene, he comments that Yuji isn't alone. With a powerful leap, Yuta lands, shattering the concrete beneath him and startling both Chozo and Yuji. He turns to Naoya and asks who he is, to which Naoya coldly replies that Yuji is just bait for someone he wants to meet. Yuta leaves Naoya to deal with Chozo and turns his attention to Yuji, surprising him with his incredible speed. Yuji jumps over a car as Yuta swings his sword, narrowly missing him. Yuta reflects internally, convinced that he should have hit Yuji, and comments that Yuji reminds him of Maki. The fight escalates as Yuji grabs a car and hurls it at Yuta, who catches it and throws it back. Yuta teases Yuji, saying he doesn't seem like the power type and is actually on the weaker side. The two continue to clash when Yuji jumps into another car and retrieves a knife just as Yuta strikes, slicing the knife instead of Yuji. Yuji presses the attack, slashing at Yuta, who observes that Yuji is too focused on his own weapon. Yuta kicks him away and raises his sword to cleave Yuji's knife in half. Yuji responds by breaking Yuta's katana, prompting Yuta to remark that the fight was never going to be easy. At that moment, Rika manifests, holding Yuji in place. Surprised, she asks what's going on. Yuta reassures her that they're just playing before stabbing Yuji, apologizing as he does so. Yuta drags Yuji's limp body to where Chozo and Naoya are still engaged in a battle, and knocks Chozo unconscious. Noticing that Naoya appears injured, Yuta wonders aloud whether he should use his reverse curse technique to heal him. Elsewhere, Yuta watches over Yuji, who suddenly awakens. Relief washes over Yuta as he laughs, much to Yuji's confusion. Yuta explains that he had to put on an act because Gojo tasked him with keeping an eye on Yuji. He also reveals that, to get the Jujutsu higher-ups to approve him as Yuji's executioner, he entered into a binding vow with them, pretending to kill Yuji. When Yuji asks how he's still alive, Yuta admits that he simultaneously used a reverse curse technique at the moment his heart stopped. Yuta adds that while the higher-ups might eventually realize Yuji isn't truly dead, for now, they consider Yuji's death sentence fulfilled. When Yuji asks why Yuta went to such lengths, Yuta answers that it's because Yuji is important to people Yuta himself cares about. He goes on to share that he, too, once struggled to control a power he couldn't handle, and that Yuji is not to blame. Yuji responds that Yuta doesn't understand, and insists it's not about fault, just as Megami Fushiguro enters the scene. Yuji is surprised to see Megami, who tells him to return to Tokyo Jujutsu High. Yuji stops him, expressing guilt over all the people he's killed and the lives lost because of him. Megami angrily counters, saying it's our fault too, and scolds Yuji for being selfish and trying to give up alone. He emphasizes that they are Jujutsu sorcerers, not heroes fighting for justice. Yuta listens quietly to their conversation, thinking about Yuji's resistance and wondering whether he truly deserves to live. Megami continues, stressing that they must prove their worth and cannot afford to dwell on themselves. They just have to save people. Yuji admits that his presence brings suffering, but Megami tells him to start by saving others. He reveals that Noritoshi Kamo has begun a culling game targeting those involved with Jujutsu, and that Sumiki Fushiguro is also caught up in it. Megami explains that he needs Yuji's strength to protect them. Yuji talks to Yuta about Sukuna, explaining that the Cursed King is likely plotting something involving Megami. He mentions that Sukuna probably took over his body during Shibuya because Yuji consumed all 10 fingers at once, and notes that he has now eaten 15 in total. Yuji expresses doubt that Sukuna could fully take control of his body after the remaining fingers are consumed, but if it happens, he asks Yuta to kill him, believing Yuta has the ability to do so. Yuta promises to do what he can if that situation ever arises. As Megami discusses the prison realm and Noritoshi Kamo's motives, Yuta notes that Tengen's concealing barrier is a major complication. When Chozo suddenly appears, Yuta is surprised and wonders if Chozo has been eavesdropping. Later, Yuta travels with Yuji, Megami, and Chozo to Tokyo Jujutsu High. Upon seeing Maki with bandages, he asks if she's okay moving around. She assures him that she is. Yuta listens as Yuki explains that even a reverse curse technique cannot fully heal Maki's burn scars, and that her survival is due to her innate toughness. Chozo also provides insight into his connection with the death painting wombs stored at the warehouse, which may offer guidance. The group proceeds to the elevator and heads towards Master Tengen's location. When Yuji asks about the bloodstains and what happened there, Yuki explains that everything began to distort 11 years ago, which leaves Yuta confused. Upon entering an empty area, Yuta suggests they head back, reasoning that Sumiki doesn't have enough time. At that moment, Master Tengen appears, questioning why they're leaving so soon before greeting them. Yuki confronts Tengen, asking why they haven't greeted her, and Yuta is surprised to see Tengen in person. Tengen explains that they initially feared Yuki and the others might be aligned with Kenjaku. Yuki asks who Kenjaku is, and Tengen reveals that Kenjaku is the sorcerer who was once Noritoshi Kamo, but is now inhabiting Suguru Geto's body. When Yuji suddenly asks why Tengen looks the way they do, Megami internally notes Yuji's boldness for interrupting such an important discussion. Tengen explains that although they are immortal, they are not immune to aging. 11 years ago, they failed to merge with the star plasma vessel, causing their age to accelerate and diminishing their self-awareness as an individual. This revelation surprises Yuji. Yuta and Megami interrupt to ask about Kenjaku's objectives and how to open the prison realm. Tengen admits they wish they could give a simple answer, but states one condition. Yuki Tsukumo, Yuta Okkotsu, or Chozo must remain as their 2 guards. Confused, Yuta asks why guards are necessary despite Tengen's immortality, and Maki wonders if it has to do with the seal. Yuki objects to this arrangement. Tengen continues, explaining that Kenjaku's goal is to force the evolution of all humankind across Japan. Megami acknowledges this, but asks for more details. Tengen explains that Kenjaku lacks the cursed energy to accomplish this on their own. When asked why Kenjaku didn't use their barrier in Japan to affect sorcerers through idle transfiguration, Tengen clarifies that Kenjaku's chosen method is to merge humankind with themselves. Yuji, shocked, asks if that is even possible, and Tengen confirms it is. Chozo questions how Kenjaku could merge with multiple people despite being a single individual. Tengen confirms that they are indeed one person, but their evolution over the past 11 years allows them to merge with someone other than a star plasma vessel, making it possible. Tengen explains that when a human merges with themselves, they transform into something greater than a sorcerer, a new being that both exists and does not exist in the same way. They clarify that barrier techniques allow them to maintain their current form and self-control even after evolving. However, Tengen warns that if humankind evolves in this way, and even a single person loses control, it could end the world. Yuki asks why, and Tengen explains that the impurities of hundreds of millions of people would flood the world. Just as what happened in Tokyo would occur worldwide. There would be no boundaries between individuals, allowing evil to spread instantly. When Maki asks why humans do not refuse to merge, Tengen notes that this is precisely the problem. Yuji asks why Kenjaku would pursue such a plan, but Tengen admits they cannot understand human hearts, and thus cannot know his motives. Tengen further explains that now that they have evolved, they are more cursed spirit than human, which makes them vulnerable to cursed spirit manipulation, shocking the group. Considering Kenjaku's sorcerer abilities, Tengen warns that he might attempt to seize control of them when they eventually encounter each other. This, Tengen adds, is why their main body has been rejecting everything at the tombs of the Star Corridor. Yuta asks if this is why Tengen requires guards, and Tengen confirms it. They also note that Kenjaku is the second most powerful barrier user after themselves, and admit they do not know when he will attempt to undo the seal on the tombs. Yuki asks why Kenjaku is acting now. Tengen explains that Kenjaku previously prevented a merging with a star plasma vessel, seeks to consume and control Tengen through cursed spirit manipulation, and has apparently been a sorcerer for over 1,000 years, including involvement with Sukuna. Tengen concludes that they themselves, the star plasma vessel, and the Six Eyes are all connected through faith. Tengen reveals that Kenjaku had lost twice to a sorcerer possessing the Six Eyes. The second time, he took no chances and killed both the star plasma vessel and the Six Eyes less than a month after they were born. The second time, he took no chances and killed both the star plasma vessel and the Six Eyes less than a month after they were born. On the day of a planned merging, both the Six Eyes and the star plasma vessel appeared, so Kenjaku shifted to sealing rather than eradicating the Six Eyes. This marked the beginning of his search for the prison realm, since two bearers of the Six Eyes cannot exist simultaneously. However, 11 years ago, an unexpected complication arose when Toji Zenin intervened. Megami is confused but remains silent. Tengen explains that Toji, being physically gifted through heavenly restriction, had no cursed energy and was an anomaly who disrupted Kenjaku's plans. Later, a boy with cursed spirit manipulation appeared, and with him, all the pieces finally fell into place for Kenjaku, except for the prison realm, which he acquired 6 years ago. Megami asks why the Culling Game is happening. Tengen explains that the Culling Game uses its participants and the binding barriers of the area in a ritual that will convey the human population of Japan to the other side, allowing Kenjaku to begin merging with humanity. To carry out the ritual, Kenjaku has established certain binding vows. One stipulates that Kenjaku cannot serve as the game master, but this does not benefit the sorcerers. If Kenjaku is killed, the Culling Game will continue until all participants are dead. Yuta concludes that they have no choice but to participate, while adding a rule that allows Sumiki and other unwilling participants to escape safely. Megami suggests that they should also aim to free Gojo, as he could resolve the situation on his own. Yuji looks to Master Tengen and asks how they can free Gojo, but Tengen responds that they must first decide who will remain as guards. To the surprise of Yuji and Megami, Yuki and Chozo volunteer to remain. Chozo tells Yuji that the Culling Game will absolutely require the cooperation of either Yuta or Yuki, especially if Kenjaku attempts to target Tengen. Tengen thanks the group before revealing an item, the back of the prison realm. Megami is shocked to learn that such a thing exists. Tengen explains that before Kenjaku located the prison realm, it was outside their barrier, possibly overseas. By sealing the rear gate, they had been hiding the front, though it ultimately proved ineffective. When Yuji asks if it functions like a back gate, Tengen confirms that it does. They further explain that Gojo is sealed inside the rear gate, but the authority to open it rests with Kenjaku, who serves as the point of the front. To break it open, they will either need the inverted spear of heaven, which nullifies curse techniques, or the black rope, which disrupts and cancels the effects of curse techniques. Yuji and Megami are shocked to learn that Gojo either sealed or destroyed both tools years ago. Yuta adds that he and Miguel searched for any remaining black rope in Africa, but found nothing. Yuki asks if there's any other way, and Tengen confirms that there is. They reveal that, among the participants in the Culling Game, is a sorcerer from 1,000 years ago who calls herself an angel, and her curse technique has the power to extinguish any other curse technique. Yuta listens as Tengen explains that Hanakurasu is located in a colony on the east side of Tokyo. They go on to clarify that there are 10 colonies across Japan, all connected by a barrier designed to transport humans to the other side. Yuki asks if Hokkaido is excluded because of the Jujutsu Society's barriers. Tengen confirms this and adds that Hokkaido has been designated as vast sacred land. Tengen also notes that while the idea of humans being conveyed to another realm may sound exaggerated, a curse has fallen on everyone in Japan as preparation for Kenjaku's merging ritual. Megami asks how long the ritual will take, and Tengen estimates it will require at least 2 months. Megami then asks whether those who refuse to participate in the Culling Game will die. Tengen confirms this, prompting Megami to calculate that Sumiki has roughly 10 days and 15 hours before she will be forced to participate. This is based on Maki noting that it's currently 9 AM on November 9th, while Yuta adds that the sorcerer participants awakened around midnight on October 31st. Maki agrees with Shoko's previous assessment and adds that people like herself who lack curse techniques will not be directly at risk. Yuji asks about the civilians already inside the barrier. Tengen explains that they will have one chance to exit, much to Yuji's surprise. Yuta comments that it's generous of the game to allow that. Tengen clarifies that there are no strict rules governing entry or exit. Rather, this flexibility exists to stimulate the game. They also note that having players enter of their own free will is important for keeping them confined within the rules. Megami asks about the Game Master. Tengen explains that each player will receive a Shikigami called a Kogane. They clarify that a Kogane functions less as a Game Master and more as an interface, which confuses Yuji. Tengen adds that it may help to think of the Game Master as the Culling Game's program itself. Yuji remarks that they won't be able to remove the existing rules, while Megami suggests there may still be ways to counteract them. Chozo asks if the 7th rule is fair, and Yuta confirms that it is, while Maki notes that it still gives the Game Master considerable leeway. Tengen emphasizes that players are subject to strict rules, and sorcery-wise, Kenjaku is constrained from exercising further bias. Yuji expresses disappointment that he will likely be forced to kill more people, though Megami assures him that there are strategies to prevent unnecessary deaths. Maki concludes by summarizing that this is all the information they currently have. Each member will have a role to play, with Yuki Tsukumo and Chozo remaining as Tengen's guards. Maki announces that she will head back to the Zenin family warehouse to search for cursed tools. She explains that soon after Gojo was sealed, both the Kamo and Zenin families raided Tokyo Jujutsu High's cursed warehouse and emptied it of weapons. She adds that Megami is now the head of the Zenin family, which surprises Yuji, and notes that because of this, it's now possible to conduct a thorough search of the Zenin warehouse. Maki then asks Master Tengen about Juzo Komiya's warehouse. Maki says she will also go find Panda to explain the situation to him. She turns to Yuta and asks about his plan. Yuta responds that he will enter a colony immediately before Sumiki Fushiguro is forced to participate in the Culling Game in order to gather more information. He explains that he will avoid nearby colonies to prevent accidental conflicts and to keep Sumiki safe. Yuta also notes that the barriers may block phone reception, so they will likely be out of touch for a while. At that moment, both Yuta and Yuji remember Yuji's earlier request for Yuta to kill him if Sukuna ever takes over his body. Megami reassures Yuji that it won't happen, but adds that if it does and Yuji dies, Yuta should carry out the request. Yuji becomes frustrated as his point was to prevent that situation entirely. Megami then turns to Maki, who instructs them to locate Kinji Hikari as planned. Yuji, unfamiliar with the name, asks who he is. Yuta explains that Kinji is a suspended third-year student. Maki notes that because the group is short-handed, they will need to involve as many people as possible. Yuji asks if Kinji is strong, and Yuta responds that while Kinji can be moody, he becomes stronger than Yuta when worked up, a claim Maki disputes. With their plans set, Yuta, Maki, Yuji, and Megami set out together. During the Culling Game, Yuta swiftly and effortlessly eliminates Drove Lakdwala. He then engages Kurorushi in combat. Attempting to exercise Kurorushi without revealing his ability to use reverse curse technique, Yuta's incredible cursed energy is nonetheless noticed by the Culling Game observers, Ryu Ishigori and Takako Uro. Uro ambushes Yuta, blasting him through the ground before coming to a stop. She immediately follows up with a punch extended by her cursed technique, evading Yuta's counter by bending his arm and pushing him away. While demonstrating the ability of her technique to manipulate space as a surface, she waits for Yuta to attack. Yuta, however, seizes the moment to ask Uro why she kills others in the Culling Game. Annoyed, Uro explains that she harbors regrets from her past life and feels compelled to gain as many points as possible in preparation for Kenjaku's plan. Yuta, unable to sympathize with her selfishness, angers the ancient sorcerer, who accuses him of belonging to the Fujiwara clan. Meanwhile, Ryu opens fire with Granite Blast, revealing his position and forcing Yuta to prioritize him. Yuta charges at Ryu, turning the confrontation into a full-scale brawl. He summons Rika to even the odds. While Yuta contends with Uro, Rika engages Ryu, deflecting his attacks and launching him over rooftops. When Yuta and Uro reach the same area as Ryu, all three immediately unleash their domain expansions in response to each other. The shocking intervention of a reborn Kurorushi causes the collapse of all three domain barriers, temporarily limiting both Uro and Yuta from using their techniques to their full capacity. Yuta quickly eliminates the cursed spirit before turning his attention back to Ryu. The remaining combatants then exchanged energy blasts in a fierce duel. Though Yuta initially loses the advantage during their beam clash, he rapidly turns the tide by having Rika provide covering fire while he closes the distance. When Ryu fires a granite blast at close range, Yuta cleverly redirects it into the air using Uro's technique, which he had copied. As Rika reaches her time limit and vanishes, the two combatants engage in a brutal close-quarters fight. Ultimately, Ryu is defeated after taking a full blow from his previously deflected granite blast. For the first time in his life, Ryu feels satisfied, showing no resentment over his loss to Yuta. However, he chastises Yuta for sparing both him and Uro. Ryu immediately agrees to transfer his points to Yuta under the newly established 10th rule. Before Yuta departs, Ryu expresses doubt over his mercy, questioning whether the special grade sorcerer would have killed him if the new rule hadn't allowed him to gain points by sparing others. Yuta semi-confirms this, telling Ryu to be thankful for the rule and the value of his friends. On November 18th, Yuta and Shoko treated Hana's injuries to prepare her for unsealing Gojo from the prison realm. During their conversation, Yuta requested that Hana and the Angel, when the time comes to launch an all-or-nothing attempt to reclaim the newly possessed Megami from Sukuna's control, use Jacob's Ladder as the finishing blow. He explained that due to his copy technique, enemies rarely anticipate that the original possessor of a technique could appear and wield it. After unsealing Satoru Gojo from the prison realm, Yuta and the other sorcerers regroup and plan for the upcoming battle between Gojo and Sukuna, scheduled for December 24th, giving everyone a month to prepare. During the training month, Yuta meets with fellow sorcerers to discuss contingency plans in case Gojo loses. Chozo asks Yuta how he replenishes his blood after using reverse curse technique, to which Yuta admits he does it instinctively without knowing why. The group agrees to focus on replacement training to master reverse curse technique and a simple domain expansion. In a strategic meeting, Yuta and the others discuss who should confront Kenjaku. Yuta and Kinji speculate Kenjaku might attempt a surprise attack while Sukuna is dealt with, and the angel suggests Fumihiko Takaba be sent. Yuta proposes a plan involving Gojo's body as a last resort option if Gojo dies, but Maki and Hikari reject it. Panda outlines Yuta's approach to counter Kenjaku, having Rika consume Kenjaku's head to copy his brain transplanting technique and potentially use it on Gojo's body. Kusakabe questions why Yuta couldn't just copy Limitless or the Six Eyes, but Shoko confirms this isn't possible. When Maki asks about the 5-minute limit of Yuta's copy technique, he admits he doesn't know the outcome. Meimei presents 3 possibilities. Yuta eventually dies sometime after 5 minutes, or the technique requires only a one-time activation, allowing Yuta to retain Limitless, but he loses his innate technique and becomes permanently in Gojo's body. Yuta decides he will fight Sukuna in his domain, and if necessary, take Gojo's body despite Maki's protests. He grows frustrated at his allies' refusal to consider non-ethical tactics, arguing that they aren't accounting for Gojo's burden of being a monster. He declares that if they won't be willing to become monsters themselves to win, then he will. After the strategy meetings, Yuta walks with Gojo, still frustrated about how cautious everyone else was being. He tells Gojo that if anything happens to him, he plans to take over Gojo's body to keep things under control. Gojo, being Gojo, isn't fazed. He agrees, but admits he's surprised that Shoko didn't object to the idea. Yuta then asks about his lineage, curious after hearing Uro claim that he was a Fujiwara. Gojo clarifies that he and Yuta are both distant relatives of Sugawara descent, though historically the Fujiwara and Sugawara clans didn't exactly get along. They shrug it off as either a misunderstanding or a curious fact, and Gojo reminds Yuta to focus on precise control of his cursed energy before seeing him off. However, Yuta, along with Maki, Inumaki, and Panda, refuse to leave the corridor. They know Gojo is about to confront the Jujutsu higher-ups directly, and after a little debate, Yuta reassures Gojo that he doesn't have to face this monster job alone, finally convincing him to relent. During replacement training with Gojo, Yuta asks if he could use Sukuna's last cursed finger to copy his techniques. Gojo says no, having Rika consume it wouldn't let Yuta fully understand Sukuna's shrine or techniques. Yuta takes it in stride and agrees with Gojo's reasoning, just like he had with the previous training with Inumaki. Gojo then offers an alternative method for copying the shrine. Later, Yuta meets Meimei, Yuji, and Ui to explain how the copy technique works and what conditions need to be met. Yuji suggests copying Hikari and Gojo's techniques while regenerating the consumed limb, but Yuta declines. He points out that once a limb regenerates, the curse technique loses its value, which is why Hana and Inumaki allowed their bisected arms to be copied. When Meimei brings up the resonance between Sukuna and Yuji, Yuta clarifies that the two can't read each other's minds. Finally, he reveals his clever plan, to use his own finger as a decoy. Thanks to Gojo's insight that Sukuna's techniques are embedded in Yuji's flesh, this gives Yuta a way to copy them without tipping Sukuna off. Later, Yuta walks with Inumaki through Jujutsu headquarters, discussing a useful item he'd been given. On December 24th, the day of Gojo's fight against Sukuna, Yuta and the other students see him off as he begins his preparations. Using Rika, Yuta and the other sorcerers watch the battle unfold via broadcast, commenting on the fight as it progresses. As Gojo starts to struggle, Yuta continues intervening, but Kashimo warns him to stay back. It's not his turn to fight, while Kusakabe advises that it's best to let Gojo handle it alone. Yuta thanks Kusakabe for the guidance, and soon Gojo unleashes Hollow Purple, severely injuring Sukuna thanks to a surge in reverse curse technique output. Despite his incredible effort, Gojo ultimately fails, leaving Yuta and the others distraught. With Gojo out of the way, Yuta moves forward with the plan to kill Kenjaku while he's distracted by Fumihiko Takaba. Using Aoi Todo's Boogie Woogie, Yuta successfully decapitates Kenjaku. As the sorcerer dies, his cursed spirit manipulation begins to unravel, releasing numerous cursed spirits that Rika quickly dispatches. Yuta stabs Kenjaku in the head, but not before Kenjaku initiates his backup plan, beginning humanity's merger with Tengen. Yuta has Rika consume Kenjaku's corpse, allowing him to copy his innate technique. Afterward, Yuta and Rika provide support for Yuji in his fight with Sukuna, trapping him in Yuta's domain expansion, authentic mutual love, as part of a coordinated plan to defeat him. Together, they push the boundary between Sukuna and Megami's soul, attempting to separate the two. Yuta lands a thin icebreaker on Sukuna, who retaliates with a cleave, throwing both Yuta and Yuji back while severing Rika's fingers. Sukuna questions how they gained so much strength and cursed energy over the past month, and Yuta admits, thinking to himself, that it was thanks to some cheating, and more importantly, Gojo's efforts, without which Sukuna would have easily wiped them both out. Yuta then fulfills the conditions for ink and predicts Sukuna's next move to counter it. He then reveals he copied Sukuna's technique Cleave and uses it on the King of Curses, much to his surprise. Yuta reveals to him that he ate the last of his 20 cursed fingers, though this was a bluff and the finger was Yuji's, and Sukuna was then struck repeatedly by Yuji. Sukuna then retaliated with slashes to Yuji's chest, making Yuji spit up blood in his face. Yuta, Rika, and Yuji then apply more pressure, causing Sukuna to begin dropping his hollow wicker basket in an attempt to use the world-cutting slash. Yuta, however, realized and thought to himself on knowing what he was about to do. While Rika and Yuji held his arms, Yuta went to tear out his second tongue, having planned for this outcome. Yuta was then hit with slashes, but they were significantly weakened, allowing him to push forward. Yuji's spat up blood then erupts onto Sukuna's face, and his fourth arm was cut, allowing the domain to activate Jacob's ladder. Yuji was then able to access the barrier of Megami and Sukuna's soul, only to learn Megami had lost his will to live. Sukuna then took his chance to use the world-cutting slash, slicing straight through Yuta and Rika while also severely injuring Yuji. While Sukuna was momentarily distracted by his seeming victory, Maki Zenin boldly entered the domain and struck, stabbing through him. Meanwhile, a tearful Rika carried Yuta's unconscious body, and Ui safely transported him back to headquarters. At headquarters, Yuta is treated for his critical injuries, which are only being kept in check because of Rika's support. While stabilizing him, he instructs Shoko to carry out their final contingency plan. She explains that once Yuta's brain is placed into Gojo's body, he must unleash his reverse curse technique at maximum capacity. Now inhabiting Gojo's body, Yuta returns to the battlefield to confront Sukuna. Upon seeing the stitched pattern on the head, Sukuna immediately realizes that it's Yuta controlling Gojo's corpse. He is both impressed and thrilled at the lengths Yuta went to. With that, both Yuta and Sukuna activate their respective domains, Malevolent Shrine for Yuta and Unlimited Void for Sukuna, setting the stage for an all-out clash. Using Gojo's method for handling Malevolent Shrine, Yuta deployed a shrunken barrier to shield himself from Sukuna's domain for the next 3 minutes. He reflected on how much his barrier techniques had improved thanks to replacement training with Gojo, mentally preparing to strike Sukuna hard enough to collapse the King of Curses' control over Malevolent Shrine. Yuta tried to pull Sukuna in with blue, but was caught off guard when Sukuna bypassed Infinity, restraining Yuta's arms and landing a solid hit to his face. Realization hit. Sukuna had activated domain amplification while using his own domain. Elsewhere, a fully manifested and tearful Rika cradled Yuta's real body, desperately watching over him. After flipping and kicking Sukuna away, Yuta noted that the King of Curses' left hands were gone, meaning he could no longer attempt the world-cutting slash. For a moment, Yuta felt he had the upper hand with Limitless, but quickly found himself struggling to control Gojo's body, realizing just how different the technique felt in someone else's form. After misfiring a blue, Sukuna pressed the attack, forcing Yuta to scramble. At the same time, he sifted through Gojo's memories to accurately recite the chant for purple. Before he could complete it, Sukuna unleashed a barrage of strikes, but Yuta stayed calm, executing his plan. He used blue to pull in a recorder containing Inamaki's cursed speech. With Sukuna momentarily restrained, Yuta finished the chant for purple, ready to unleash it. Once their barriers collapsed, Todo instructed Yuta to fire off purple as many times as possible, while he and Yuji used Boogie Woogie to dodge the attacks. But the strain was too much. Due to the domain expansion, Yuta collapsed before even reaching the 5-minute mark. Frustratingly, he couldn't access Rika or copy, and even with Limitless burned out, Kenjaku's technique remained out of reach. He began to theorize whether Kenjaku had a hidden trick to immediately reuse his cursed technique after a domain expansion. With no direct insights from the technique itself, Yuta chose to keep fragments of his domain's barrier active, hedging his bets for the next move. While Yuta was in a state of suspended animation, recovering from his cursed techniques, Rika used reverse curse technique to heal his original body. Presumably shortly after Sukuna's defeat and death, she safely returned Yuta's brain to his own body. Later, after the battle, Maki didn't hold back and berated Yuta for how he handled the situation. While enduring the scolding, Yuta spotted Yuji, Megami, and Nobara. When Nobara asked how he survived, Yuta explained Rika's life-saving efforts and apologized for worrying his friends. Todo quickly jumped in to defend him, saying Yuta had been the best choice to handle the fallout from Sukuna's cursed spirit manipulation. Panda agreed, noting that by using Toge's cursed speech on a weakened Sukuna, Yuta spared Inamaki from fatal recoil. Higuruma also confirmed that Sukuna would have killed Yuta had he intervened earlier. Despite these defenses, the group all agreed that Yuta had been at fault for not bringing LaRue and Miguel as backups sooner, something Yuta could hardly argue against. Yuji tried to defend him, pointing out the cursed tool gauntlets Yuta had given him and how he prevented Sukuna's second domain activation. Maki, however, wasn't having it. She grabbed Yuta by the collar, only letting go after getting a laugh out of Inamaki and Panda. Later, Yuta regrouped with Maki, Inamaki, and Panda as they headed out together, ready for whatever came next. By 2035, Yuta had risen to become the head representative of the Gojo clan, and took over ownership of Panda after the latter became less active. Sometime later, Yuta married Maki, and together they started a family. By 2080, the couple had 2 teenage grandchildren, carrying on their legacy. In his later years, Yuta shared a close bond with his granddaughter Yuka, and in 2076, he gifted her a special ring as a family heirloom. Following Maki's passing, Yuta struggled with grief and his health declined. In 2080, he peacefully passed away, leaving behind a legacy of strength, love, and devotion. And that's the life of Yuta Okkotsu. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from ChannelFrederator, and make sure to subscribe and ring that bell to be notified about our latest videos. And remember, Frederator loves you.